Welcome back to MSNBC. Republicans gathered in Washington last night to make their case for unity, optimism, and hope for coming elections.
They also skewered President Obama for being naive when it comes to dealing with America's enemies. Former House Speaker Newt Gingrich delivered the keynote address and used the occasion to reject the president's speech in Berlin last summer when he declared himself a citizen of the world.
Be clear. I am not a citizen of the world. I think the entire concept is intellectual nonsense and stunningly dangerous. There is, in fact, no circumstance under which I would like to be a citizen of North Korea, Zimbabwe, Venezuela, Cuba, or Russia. I am a citizen of the United States of America, and the rest of this speech is about the United States of America.
Joining us now, Matthew Slutsky is a blogger and co-host of Doublespeak, an online radio show. Matt Lewis is a blogger with politicsdaily.com and townhall.com. Matt Lewis, let's start with you. If Newt Gingrich is right when he says that it's intellectual nonsense for anybody to say, I'm not a citizen of the world, when Ronald Reagan said in June 1982, I speak today as both a citizen of the United States and of the world, was Ronald Reagan engaging in intellectual nonsense?
Thanks for the easy question, David. Look, I think the context is what counts here. Ronald Reagan, by the time he said that, had spent 50 years in public life talking about American exceptionalism, talking about America being a shining city on a hill. Barack Obama has no such background or credibility on this issue. And I would say the speech last year in Berlin is only part of it.
Didn't Barack Obama spend part of his youth overseas? Doesn't he speak a couple languages? Hasn't he been well-traveled last couple of years? Didn't he just give this big speech in Cairo that the Middle East seemed to like?
But I think that's exactly the problem. It's not just the Berlin speech, but in Cairo he said, any world order that elevates one nation over another will fall flat. I think that goes against the idea of American exceptionalism. Most Americans believe that this country was gifted by God, a blessed nation, and that we are better than places like North Korea or Cuba, as Newt Gingrich said.
Matthew Slutsky.
Well, I think America clearly is an exceptional country, but what this policy says is that there is a new way to look at our place in the world, and Barack Obama is using these opportunities as a teaching moment to say that we need to work together, we need a new reality. Look, we've seen 8 years of the policy that Newt Gingrich is talking about in this speech, and guess what? That failed, and the voters in November rejected it completely.
Here's one more. Here's Newt Gingrich ripping Carter, Clinton, Obama for treating terrorists like criminals. Watch.
Under the Obama administration, we have fallen back into the utopian fantasies and self-deception of the 1977 Carter administration and the 1993 Clinton administration. The Clinton-era failures are similar. Their passion for mistreating terrorism not as an act of war but as an act of criminal justice. The legalisms and self-deceptions of treating enemies as criminals led to more and more disastrous results.
And yet, Matt Lewis, Ramzi Youssef and Sheikh Omar Abdul Rahman, they were both convicted in U.S. courts for being terrorists. So in that case, the criminal approach, the legal approach worked.
But I think at the macro level, if you look at what happened in 1993 with the World Trade Center bombing, we treated it like a police action. And yes, the specific individuals who were guilty were charged, but we did not treat it as an international terrorist problem, and we had 9/11. I think Newt Gingrich would argue that we can't treat this as sort of an ad hoc basis, that this is actually a global war on terror, and we have to take it very seriously. And I'm afraid that Barack Obama may not be doing that.
Tamron?
It was this morning on Morning Joe, I can't remember which guest, but someone was pointing to this comment about not being a citizen of the world is another example of how conservatives aren't getting it. That, you know, young people out there, those people who made a big difference in this past election, understand that you can be a proud American, you can be in the military, you can have the flag outside of your home, but realize that we don't exist alone. That, for example, when we saw this global economic crisis, we heard everyone say we're not in this alone, that we have to get this right, not only here in this country, but in Europe and other places in the world, that we're kind of in this pot together.
Well, that's exactly right. And the bottom line, what I see Newt Gingrich doing, he points back to previous administrations all the time. This policy is looking back, and the conservative movement, the single problem they have right now is that their policies are looking back in the past, and our policies, the progressive policies, and Obama's policies are forward-looking, and that is why, quite frankly, we're winning.
And the fact of the matter is, Matt Lewis, if Newt Gingrich does want to look back and he wants to make the argument that you just did, that we shouldn't be treating this as a police action and that we weren't paying attention to terror until 9/11, the people responsible for that were the Bush-Cheney administration. They had all the warnings in the world. They had the warnings that Osama bin Laden determined to strike in the United States. They had Richard Clarke urging them to develop some sort of anti-terror policy, and they didn't care.
Well, look, I mean, President Bush was in office for 6 or so months when this happened. Bill Clinton had been in office for 8 years prior to it happening. He could have taken...
And during the transition, they urged the Bush administration to pay attention.
He could have taken
I'm getting the last word, Matt Lewis. You're a great guy, and I appreciate your argument. On this one, I think you're wrong. Matt Slutsky, good to see you as well. We appreciate it. Matt Lewis and Matthew Slutsky, we love them both.
Yeah, David, when they come on again, we have to call them the dueling Matts, because they're both Matthew.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
Bring it on. We love it. All right, up next, bringing it on.